Sure, sure.
I like starting out. I'm on YouTube Live.
Oh,
So
cool.
if you want to share it, you can. It's on YouTube. It's comedian and then Linda Marcus Smith.
Okay. Yeah, I'm totally inept when it comes to this stuff, so I might have to figure it out on the fly. But
That's
yeah,
okay.
um, thanks for having me though. I really appreciate it. I know we didn't get to speak too much in person when I first met you. Um, that was an interesting show. How often do you go to that show?
Where did we meet?
That was at 18 Bin.
Oh my goodness
Yeah, that
sakes.
room. Yeah, that.
I my neighbor he moved out, but he was my neighbor for a couple years, was Amir. He
Oh,
lived, I
Amir.
could drill a hole in my kitchen wall and borrow sugar from him. That's
Hmm.
how close. Like he just lived right over through that wall.
Oh, wow.
And he moved out. And I love his show for a lot of reasons. And sometimes the fun is that it can be a real shit show. It can be like, it can be whatever. And everything's good. Nobody gets chastised for
Hmm.
being on a show and bombing, you
Yeah.
know, or being crazy, or, sometimes they, bring up women and have women kiss each other, and, like everything goes. It's just
Yeah.
a fun time. And like it's not traditional. It doesn't stay in any lanes. It can go off the rails at any point. I kind of like that. I kind of
Hmm.
like that. It's
Yeah.
just whatever he feels like doing with it. And like sometimes he books a lot of people and adds a lot more. And, people that come in from out of town think they're going to
Hmm.
be special and find out they're really on it's really a showcase.
Hmm. Yeah, and we learned that very quick. And don't get me wrong, I love the chaos. I realized that right away when I was there, like, oh, this is gonna be one of those shows, you know. What I didn't understand was it's pretty much a two-part show, right? The first half of the show is a real comedy show. They have a crowd there that's for comedy, and then they have, 4 to 5 comics, including the headliner being one of those. And that's like the real comedy show. That's what you're there to see. And then there's a second half, which is going to be essentially an open mic. It's essentially an open mic, and it's going to go on for a long time. And
That they tried that and they
mhm.
put all the women up at the end.
Oh, really? Well,
Is
when
that
I
the
was
one?
no, when I was there, there was a lot of guys still. There's a lot of men still going up. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 females that I saw go up after the comedy show, but I
Was there
can't
a
be too sure.
big black chick that was first time on stage that went up?
No, no, when I was there, no.
It wasn't the part that I hosted.
No, no, no.
Okay.
When I saw you, you were sitting in the crowd.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I
So
didn't go up and perform or host.
no. Well, I left before the end of the night, before the show was over, but there was like 2 comics left, so no.
Yeah.
But when we went there, so me and my friend Dakota Miracle, you spoke to him as well. We're both from the Coachella Valley. I got booked by Steve McNelly, I think his name is. He runs Rick's Rollin' Barbecue, which that's a great spot. That was like the funnest show we were on our trip in Vegas. That was such a fun room. The crowd, top to bottom, great room. Um, so that was the first show I got us booked. So, naturally, we start looking for other venues around the area since, hey, we got this show in Vegas. Let's look for more. Dakota was able to find that one at 18 Bin. Didn't know much about it. Didn't really know the booker, but he got a spot. Um, and then he asked Amir, "Hey, can my buddy get on the show too? He's coming with me. We're from out of town." He's like, "Oh yeah, he can get a spot." Not really explaining how it's going to work. So, after like the 2.5 hour mark, I go, I don't even really want to perform anymore. Like, because the show was over and now I saw what was happening. When there's like 4 people in front of you, it's one of those things where you're like, I don't want to wait 3 hours to do this anymore. But I'm there, I'm from out of town. So sometimes you got to just bite the bullet and do it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty rough. But the first part of the show I thought was very entertaining. I thought it was very fun, chaotic. Amir did try to get somebody to go up there and kiss, like you're saying, I believe. he was like giving free shots out for two girls who would come up and kiss. So I thought that was funny. Definitely just a crazy, chaotic show, not your usual show, but I think you need stuff like that. You know, you need to find those little random holes in the walls that you don't know what you're going to find when you walk in. So
Yes.
it was a fun night regardless. We met a lot of the comics in the scene out there. Very helpful. A lot of them are super giving right away. Oh, check this spot out. Tomorrow is their mic here, go here. So they were very helpful because we've been in parts of our neck of the woods at least where some comics just don't want to lend you a helping hand, or they'll only give you a small bit of information and you got to go treasure hunt the rest. So um
Yes.
to be out of towners and to go to their area and for them to be so willing to be like, oh, come here, come here, come here, it was very cool.
That's awesome. Before I do your intro, I want you to tell people now I know, but I want you to describe it. Tell people where the Coachella Valley is, and if they
Hmm.
wanted to come out there and watch you do comedy, what airport and how far is it by miles to get
Hmm.
to where you perform usually?
Okay, yeah. So in the Coachella Valley, I specifically live in the Palm Desert area. Most people around the country are familiar with Palm Springs. That's pretty much the vacation getaway for everybody that comes to the valley. And also they're familiar with Coachella Fest. So I live in Palm Desert. That's pretty much the haven of all things comedy um, in the valley. We have a spot called Coachella Valley Brewery. Our main booker, Dakota Miracle, he actually works at the brewery, so he got a free venue essentially to work with. And the management there is great. One of the managers, or actually the only manager, he's a comic himself. He just started out, so they're super giving, super helpful. We have shows there like twice a month now that it's summertime, because it really is a tin can during the summertime. It is very hot there. So during the summer we slow it down, but when season starts to pick up, maybe late October, early November, we'll have shows there almost every week. And then Dakota also helps produce a show with his partner named Adam Levy. He produces a show at our casino here in Palm Springs, which is about 20 minutes away. I know you in miles, you want it's probably like 12 miles away, but everything's so quick here. It's just one road in the Coachella Valley, so 12 miles isn't far at all. It's about a 15-20 minute drive to the casino. It's called Agua Caliente Casino in Palm Springs. In there, there's a room called the Cascade Lounge. It's a great room. It fits maybe 200 people max. And they get legit comics out there. I've opened up for Dean Del Rey there, John Huck. We've had Jeremiah Watkins recently. Ali Makovsky was just there a couple weeks ago. So we get like really good headliners there. And that's like the big show. If you can get on that one, that's going to be a great spot. There's usually at least like 50 people on a slow night. There's usually about 50 people there, so it's a great room. We also have this bar. It's a dive bar. It's called the Hood. That's in Palm Desert. That's literally about 3 miles away from my house. It's located in Palm Desert. That's actually where I started out my comedy career, if you will. Yeah, so it's in Palm Desert. That's almost where all the comics got their start. Now that I think about it, that's where we all met each other. So yeah, they used to run an open mic about 5 years ago. Um, they just started doing comedy shows there again. There was a falling out between the comics and the management over the last 2 years, but over the last like 6 months, they just started doing it again. So we just had like our fourth comedy show there since it all started back up again. That's called the Hood Barn Pizza. We've had good comics there as well. Ian Edwards, Eric Griffin, Jamie Kennedy, Pauly Shore. So that's actually a good spot to perform as well.
I've
So,
interviewed two of those people.
oh, well, there you go. I know some of them remember it. Like Dean Del Rey's been there and he remembered the Hood Bar when we were talking, him and I. Eric Griffin, I don't know if he would remember it. Pauly Shore's been there, I think, twice. Jamie Kennedy as well. So I think they might remember. But yeah, that's a good room. When it's on, it's on. But it could also be like 18 bin, where you're only performing in front of like four people, and you're looking around and there's these people in there, but they're not there for comedy. They're there because they want to get drunk and they're louder than you, and you're going, what the hell am I doing here? It's just nothing's going right. It could be one of those nights sometimes. But that's where we got our start. So it's fun to go back there from time to time and
It
remember how it all
makes
started.
you a stronger 18 bin has made me such a stronger comic.
Oh yeah, rooms like that. Because there's, that saying like sometimes you're gonna learn from a bomb, right? I don't always believe in that. I don't. Sometimes there's an open mic that you shouldn't just go to. You're not gonna learn anything from it. There's a couple
Exactly.
around my areas, other cities, that the booker, the host of the open mic, great people, but just nobody goes there. And essentially, how are you going to learn if your material is good when you're performing in front of nobody or two people, but they're also comics, you
Right.
know? And they can tell you, oh, you got a good premise, you got this. But in my opinion, you're not going to learn anything unless it's from the crowd. The crowd is going to tell you everything you need to know. So sometimes
Well,
I've,
I
I've,
wanted I want to just insert something
sure.
that I feel you can have your opinion, and what America and the world needs to do is have discussions where it's okay to have two differing opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And my differing opinion, not to argue, my differing
Mm-hmm.
opinion is based in this. Every single opinion inside of comedy has two polar opposite opinions.
Mm-hmm.
There's those that think exactly like you and those that don't. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying, some people will say the exact opposite, not necessarily me. But if you go to a mic, you can pick up bad habits, but
Mm-hmm.
you can also learn from other people's mistakes, which is a good thing, rather than learning from your own. But if you're so new at comedy, you don't know if this is the right way or the wrong way, then you're in there learning and you don't know what's the right and the wrong. So I just want to throw that out
No,
there.
it's very true. I mean, you don't know until you go and try it. That's for sure. And I definitely have some friends of my own that actually like that. They like going up there and they see four people in the crowd and they're like, I'm gonna work these four people. Whereas to me, I'm like, I've done it so many times now where I'm like, it's not gonna be worth it. I've seen this movie
No,
before.
if you can open at Agua Caliente for big names, then why you messing with four people at a dive bar? I think you're beyond that level. That would be boring to you.
Yeah, but sometimes I mean, I don't know about you. Like, how long have you been doing comedy or been in the scene of comedy?
9 years and 2 months.
Okay, so me, I'm on my fifth year, and for me, I still sometimes struggle with imposter syndrome, right? And you
What's
got,
that?
imposter syndrome when you don't like believe you're something you are, like you're doing something, you're going, why am I doing this? Like
Okay.
you see everybody around you that's also doing the same craft or whatever, and you're like, that guy's a comic, this guy's a comic, they're real comics. What am I doing? And maybe that's just like I'm super self-deprecating a lot of the times, and I get a lot of anxiety, even though I keep it all inside my head.
You do a good
Uh,
job of hiding it.
yeah, I get that a lot, but sometimes I'm freaking out in my head, but I just have a good poker face. But sometimes, yeah, I'm up there and I go, what am I doing? Like, there's no way I should be able to do this. Not to toot my own horn or whatever, blow smoke up there, but sometimes I have really good sets and you feel good about that. You're on cloud nine, you'll never forget those sets. You want that feeling again. Other times when you're at 18 Ben or the Hood Bar performing in front of people who are also open micers, so they're not really interested in what you're saying all that much sometimes, because you could see it in their face. Like they're just like, I just want to do my set too. And you're up there going, why am I doing this again? When you get that just bomb, but I feel going on I'm 5 years in. I'm like, when do I really get to call myself a comic? I don't know. Because I know people that have been doing it for like 6 months and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm a comic. And I will never say you're not. I wouldn't tell them that. Who am I to say that? But I don't even know when to call myself a comic sometimes. I've met people and they're like, hey, don't you do comedy? And I'll go, yeah, I've done stand up. Like I don't even know how to say it on a regular basis. Like, oh yeah, I'm a stand up comic. I don't know. Sometimes I'm in my own head too much.
I would just embrace it. And if you're opening at Agua Caliente, I would tell people I'm a comedian. I wouldn't even tell them I'm a comic, because I think that calling yourself a comic is beneath it. And recognizing that you've made it to a level where you're getting professional spots.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know. I've always been this way in like anything I've ever done in my life, whether it be sports. I'm always downplaying, whether I'm really good at something or just an avid player in whatever I'm doing. I always have been pretty good at almost everything I've ever done. Not saying that I'm good at comedy, but past that, everything else or previous to that, I've always been pretty good at everything. And but I don't know, maybe it was just the way I was raised. My family, we were very poor, so we grew up very humble. And my parents and my uncle really instilled like there's no reason to showboat, if you're good at something, your work's going to show for itself. Like,
Absolutely.
and so that's just kind of my mentality all the time. Like I don't ever go, "Oh man, I killed tonight." Even when
I
you have a good
you're
set.
so, you know what? You're so much like me. You're preaching to the choir.
Oh, good. I'm glad we think alike
I
then.
get it. I
Yeah.
get it. I've struggled with seeing myself on any level, and I've had to really work at, now when I tell people I'm a comedian, I'm a working comedian, I'm a
Mhm.
traveling comedian,
Mhm.
I might not necessarily always be getting paid or paid what I'm worth, but I'm out there, I'm getting booked. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and you're 9 years in, you got stories, You're able to really sit back and talk to the younger new generation of comics coming up and be like, "Oh, that room, yeah, I did this room back then and I can tell you." You know what I'm saying? Whereas me, I'm barely building into that now. Like I feel like now I'm really starting to catch a rhythm, you know. A couple years ago, even when before the pandemic, we thought like, "Oh man, we got a good scene going. We're pretty decent comics. We're talking about good stuff." I look back at that now and I go, "Man, what the hell were we thinking?" We were so green. And so I'm thinking we didn't know shit. We didn't know what the hell we were talking about. Now,
I feel like in comedy, there's like everybody gets attracted to it and decides, okay, I make people laugh all the time. I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go
yeah,
try it. Once they try it and they start hearing, you need to get a, you need to get a notebook, you need to get a pen, you need to start putting the pen to the paper, you probably should take a class, you should watch a bunch of video. And they're like, oh my God, I thought it was going to be easy. Oh, what do you mean? There's
yeah, it's
different
work.
ways of doing different styles and a persona and a voice. Then they go from seeing it, thinking about it, getting attracted to it, to, oh, wait a minute, committed to it? I don't know about that.
Yeah, yeah. I've always been pretty good at reading people. And I could tell right away the comics that I knew weren't going to do it for long, and they're not around anymore. And that's not trying to knock them or anything, but you
No.
could just see who's committed and who's not. Even now with the people that have been doing it for as long as I have or longer than me, they don't travel as much as I do or a couple of other comics, good friends of mine like Dakota. They don't travel. And I mean, I'm at that point where I realize now, okay, I need to go out there now. There's still going to be shows here in my hometown, and I'll get those shows. But really now to expand and to further grow, I've understood now, like I need to go out there. I need to hit the road. And there's comics that have been doing it longer than us that they're just complacent. But they work full time. Some of them have families, so they get it. Like they just don't have the free time. But it's one of those things, how bad do you want it, and everybody's life's different, everybody's road is different, so I understand that.
Yeah,
Speaking of writing jokes though, if you don't mind us talking about it, is how do you operate? Is that, do you write, do you have a pen and a notepad with you at all times?
I do. And I use Notes, that application on my iPhone that's
Yeah.
called Notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I also use the microphone. So if I don't
Mm.
feel like typing or I didn't bring my glasses, I'll just use the microphone. And I'm always, like, for instance, I hear a word or a phrase and I build a whole joke around that when I'm writing for Facebook. I write for Facebook the kind of material that are segues, or if the crowd's not really working with you, you throw some little zinger in there. But my real material, I don't put my real material out on a Facebook post. I'll put my videos because most people are too lazy to click a video and
Yeah.
watch a video. So only those that are really looking to see if they want to book me will look at the video. Usually, I mean, people don't really go on videos to steal your material. I think that's a silly fear. I've never had anybody steal. One guy stole a joke and he worked at a comedy club, so I was able to nail him for it. But like my jokes are about my life. So if
Hmm.
you want to try to say you have a twin brother in Portland, Oregon that's half Jewish and a foot taller than you, then mazel tov to you. Like you can't really steal my jokes unless you have the same things in
Yeah.
common.
Yeah, I'm literally the same way. And so this is another part of like the imposter syndrome. I know good comics around me. My roommate, he's a great joke writer. Sometimes it doesn't translate to his stage presence, and that's something that I have. I have I know that about myself. I'm very confident in that, and I have stage presence, but I don't write jokes. I can't operate that way. I do go on the notes on iPhone, like you're talking about, when I have an idea, and I'll just write down that idea in my head. The joke's in my head already, but I don't know why, and I wish I could. Some of these friends of mine that are great joke writers, I go, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could sit there and write out a funny joke, but I just cannot do it. 99% of all material are all life experiences that are funny to me with an input and or an opinion based off of what happened to me that I turn into something funny. But in reality, they're just sad stories. Just like yourself talking about your twin brother in Oregon. I talk about my dad passing, and it's worse than losing him once, losing him twice, because I lost his ashes at the Tempe Improv. He fell out of my little cylinder I was holding him in. And like these are real life stories, and they're sad, but I turned them into something that you make light of it because my dad would laugh at that stuff. So to me, it's funny. And yeah, I can't write material. I shouldn't say I can't. It doesn't feel natural for me. I know everybody works differently, and I've met a couple people that tell me the same thing. They're like, yeah, I can't sit down and just write out, because you hear these comics that have been doing it for 20, 30 years, and they're like, oh yeah, every day I'll put an hour aside just to write. And I'm like, I can't. I just cannot do it. It's not funny to me. It seems too robotic. It doesn't
Well,
seem
that's what I mean about, let's back up for a second.
hmm.
That's what I mean when I say that in comedy, no matter what aspect you're talking
Yeah.
about, there these people over here, and then there's these people clear
Uh,
over here doing the exact opposite.
Opposite. You're absolutely
Nothing,
right.
there's nothing in the middle. There's nobody even doing a hybrid.
Yeah.
It's this or this.
Yeah. No,
And
you're
they
you're
all
absolutely right.
think they're right. They
Yeah.
all think that they have the answer.
And it sucks because for me, I tell people not to do it this way. Like with the new up and comers that have been doing it for like 6 months to a years, I'm like, don't do it this way. I'm telling them not to do it this way because I'm like, you know, I'm just impressed by somebody who can write out a very thoughtful joke, write it out. But at the end of the day, can you perform that joke to the way you're writing it? Because when I did first start, I was writing it out
Mhm.
at the open mics I was going to, and I wrote it out, and it felt just like reading a script. It just didn't feel like me. I just tell people do whatever feels right to you. That's the way you're gonna find your voice and your stage presence. So yeah, I am impressed by people who could do it. I'm jealous. I'm envious of them because I think it's so cool. I can't do it. I just write.
Which way do you think I am?
Mm, you might be like me. You might be you write, do you write? Yeah, you write every day?
Yeah, I would say I do. Now, do I seriously write for my sets every day? No, sometimes I
Mm.
take a vacation from the work and I play on Facebook and just put out, watch the news like it says, Trump pleads guilty. Trump pleads not guilty to all 37 federal charges. And I would have a tag for it, or I would write a joke about that.
Mm-hmm.
What about the feral charges? Anybody checked into that lately?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he's more feral, you know. Like I would just play with
That's funny.
somebody needs to look into the
Yeah,
feral.
yeah, that's funny actually.
You left us the president that's falling on sandbags. You
Yeah.
were a sandbagger.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
I
I get most of my ideas actually when I'm driving or in the shower. In the shower, I just will just stand there and just think. I mean, I think everybody does that, but like, I'll just think of like silly new tags for a story, or my brother passed away shortly after my dad, so I put, we cremated him as well, and I'm thinking like shortly after that I was going to New York after my brother passed away, and I was legitimately nervous about, my first gold chain. And it's not what people think it is. It's a gold chain, but it's got my brother on it. And I'm thinking this in the shower, going, dude, what if somebody steals my necklace? Like, if they mug me, because I'm at the time people were saying New York was crazy, and that there was no police anymore and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm going to the belly of the beast right now. If somebody snatches my chain, I'm gonna just look at my friend and be like, dude, that guy just stole my brother. Like it's not what they think it is. So I usually do my thinking when I'm driving or in the shower, and then I'll come out or get out of the car and I'll just like type it in my notes, like kidnapped brother. And then when I go on stage, I'll remember that, and then I'll remember what I was thinking, what made me laugh, and I'll just try to work it out.
see, and everybody's path is different, and it's okay.
Oh
That
yeah,
that
absolutely.
like I'm so tired of it. Everybody putting everybody else down
Yeah,
and
I
judging.
agree.
Like, your way is your way. I don't want to, you can tell me your way, but does that mean my way isn't the right way? No, it doesn't.
Yeah. I just had a long talk with one of the comics recently about that, how we shouldn't compare ourselves to each other, like, and we should be willing to help everybody in whatever scene you're in, whether it's comedy, music, or anything. I think society's starting to realize in the entertainment industry, this pie is big enough for everybody.
Everybody.
The routes that you can now go down, the path that you can create that is your own. There's so many new openings and doorways to open to help you get there. I mean, social media is one of the biggest aspects of it now. You're your own promoter now. You can book your own shows based on it. Like, yeah, you still have to do the work, but it's not like it was back in the 80s and the 90s where you had to get discovered. Remember? I mean, that was before my time, but I listen to these comics and they're like, yeah, that's how it was like. You had to do morning radio, all that stuff. You had to get discovered. And now it's so much easier, and we're realizing this pie is big enough for everybody. We should be sharing it with each other, not like, oh, I made my way, I'm gonna forget them and never show them how I did it. Because you can't tell them to do it the way you did it, but this is what helped me.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll help you. And
The
yeah.
thing is that when you create good karma points, good karma will come back to you so fast.
Hmm.
Me doing interviews was not born out of being jealous. I see professional headphones on you. Do you do a podcast?
I do a podcast. However, I don't use this equipment. I actually just play a lot of video games, and so I buy really good equipment. Too expensive though. But I do a podcast. It's called the Out of Step Podcast with Izzy Ortiz. One of my good friends, he's also a comic down here in the valley. His name's Asuncio Fernandez. He's been the sound guy since it started. However, we are on a hiatus right now over the last 2 months. He pretty much called it quits. He doesn't want to do the podcast anymore. It's taken a lot of time. He works full time and then trying to do comedy and other things. It was just, he had no personal life. So I totally
Totally.
respect it. I totally respect it. So as of right now, I've actually put out that I'm looking for a sound guy or sound gal, sound
Nice.
person, because I'm too lazy to learn how to learn work sound equipment. I don't even want to go there. So I'm just looking for somebody who can do it already. But
Yeah.
I'm
But
sorry
like
to
that's
interrupt.
what I
Yeah.
was trying to say. And I asked you that question for a reason, is that when I started interviewing comedians, I did it totally out of depression.
Hmm.
Depression for myself. I usually get depressed for what other people are going through. And when the pandemic hit, I mean, I was interviewing people in Portland, Oregon in 2018, all the
Hmm.
headliners coming
Hmm.
through a club. But when I moved to Vegas, that wasn't possible in a club. And so I just put it on hold. And then when the pandemic hit, I was depressed at possibly what other comedians were feeling, being told they
Mm,
weren't essential, because I know how comedians need to perform.
yeah. Yeah.
So I only started doing this so that I could in the pandemic time, so that I could to the following I have, I could let people at home get to know you, so when the pandemic's over, they can go out
And
and
see them. Yeah.
be your fan. Take my, like Rodney Dangerfield or Penny
Yeah.
Youngman said, take my wife, please. Take my fans, please. You can
Well,
have them.
that's very selfless of you. I respect that. I'm a fan of people that just do good things without wanting anything in return. Um,
That's the secret.
yeah,
Without selfish motive, I will pick up on selfish motive is such a turnoff.
yeah. Oh, I agree. And those people will never have friends. That doesn't mean they won't become successful, but they're only going to have business acquaintances. They're never going to have friends. And sometimes I have to talk to certain friends of mine that I can see are kind of steering towards that route. And I always tell them, you want to be remembered as a good person. You don't want to be remembered as so and so the booker, so and so the promoter. You want to be remembered as so and so that is a really good person to be around. Oh, and they also promote shows. That should always come second, in my opinion, because in life, all you're going to have at the end of the day is your reputation and respect and dignity for yourself and for others. So I think that's how you should operate, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
to go off of what you were saying during COVID, yeah, I mean, I saw that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Comics, we had nowhere to go. And for the first time, you had to get thousands of comics across America, across the world, and tell them, hey, stay inside. You're not doing comedy for a while. They were going crazy. My roommate was really depressed. I'm actually a big introvert. I love staying indoors. I love being left alone. Um, I love my friends, but it's more of a friendship like, do I really have to text you every day, or can you just can you believe me that I promise you're my friend? And like, I'll see you like once a week. That's how I operate. um my roommate, on the other hand, is completely opposite, just like you've been mentioning. He's a polar opposite. He needs to know and be reminded, like, hey, you're my friend, you are loved, let's hang out, let's do this, that constant communication. And that's totally okay. But during the pandemic, him and a lot of other people I knew were going crazy. um and I know they had those little pop-up Zoom comedy shows. I couldn't do it. I couldn't partake. I had been invited a few times to do them. I said, it's, in my opinion, it's not a comedy show if there's no crowd. I just can't do it. I need the reaction. And they're like, oh, well, you'll see the emojis and the hearts come up when they like your tag. And I'm like, it's not the same. Like, I need to hear it. I want to experience that. And I waited. I didn't do a comedy. I didn't do a set for, yeah, I guess like almost 2 years, uh, maybe a year and a half. And then they opened up for momentarily. If you remember, they're like, okay, we're open for a little bit, a lot of restrictions. Went to the Hood. They had a comedy show. It was my first set in like a year and a half, and I had all this new material, such as every other comic, and I worked it out. It was fun. And then literally like 2 weeks later, they're like, all right, back in lockdown. So I was like, dang, got a little taste. um but yeah, I mean, you're right. I saw a lot of comics just not knowing what to do.
We were
um
off the deep end, and
yeah.
I was really just trying to get a hold of them and show them some glimmer of hope that somebody cared,
Yeah.
somebody would listen, see how they're doing, and promote everything they've ever done, every website, every podcast they've done, like anywhere they want traction. And that's doing it out of selflessness is why I'm getting booked now.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure you did this without even
Never
wanting to get booked. That wasn't your
I
idea.
never,
Yeah.
I never, it was not in the,
Yeah.
not in the, no, I
See,
was
that
like, I gotta cheer people up.
that makes it all the more like better, really. I mean, all the more wholesome, because you were genuinely doing it out of the kindness of your heart, and because you cared. You just cared, and you wanted to see it. You wanted them to be seen. So I wish I knew you back then.
And that's the way that everybody should be. It'd be nice if everybody treated everybody with selfless motive.
Yeah.
Like I see a lot of people being nice to bookers and club owners.
Hmm.
Or if a booker or club owner is shitty, they'll still be nice to them, sucking up to them because, well, it doesn't matter if you have ethical values. I will forego on you treating me the way you should treat hired help
Hmm.
because you're a booker and you don't have to follow those rules because I want to get booked again. And like
Yeah.
I will, yes, if somebody is unethical, I will not go back to that scenario. There's a club in New York City. I wouldn't care if I couldn't go back to any other club unless I did this one. I wouldn't go.
Hmm.
And I think when you draw a line in the sand, I think that helps clean up your karma too.
Well, that's because you have a lot of respect for yourself. You have a lot of respect for yourself, and you understand the situation around you. I think what sounds like you do know, um, that this isn't the end all be all. This club that you're trying to get in so desperately to get in isn't the end all be all. There's a lot of clubs out there run by a lot of good people that, like yourself, that just want to give a helping hand, that are fans. That's the difference. When you meet somebody that's a fan of it, those are the people you want to be around. Those are the people you're going to grow with and network with, and they're going to help you. You're going to help them, not because I'm getting something out of this and they're getting something out of you. It's because you like the energy around them and around you, that hey, we're in this together. Like there's no reason not to be nice. There's no reason not to help each other, because you're right. I've run into some bookers that, you know, they didn't realize I was a comic, not just an open micer. That I've been on shows, I've opened for big comics. I hit the road. They're just thinking me, oh, this kid's just an open micer. Screw him. And I'm not one to be disrespectful. I don't start arguments. I'm not going to be combative. I'm not going to be like, well, you don't know me, because that's not who I am. If all I see is your character now, and I go, okay, I don't want to work with this guy anyway. So it's
Yeah.
probably a blessing that I'm not going to be on his show. And yeah.
I've opened up for some big names and I've actually followed a couple big names. And it's like that was yesterday.
Hmm.
Like you got to recreate it. That doesn't mean, like I've got them all listed on my website and then some, people but like what it's all about is what kind of person are you?
Yeah, I think
Are you
that's
good to hang out with?
yeah,
Do you treat other people with respect, or do you just want to receive? Are you just playing a game to get booked again, or are you really in the moment,
genuine.
caring
Yeah.
for the audience, care about the club, care about the comics, or are you
Yeah.
just a phony trying to get a spot?
I've come to realize, and I get it, for headliners, they got to drive 2.5 hours to get here, and vice versa. For us, we drive 2.5 hours to get wherever we got to go to perform, sometimes further, like Vegas. But we're doing it for the love of the game. This is what I thoroughly enjoy doing it. All the little nuances, like, oh, I gotta go put gas in. I gotta, clean my windshield because so many damn bugs I drove and they're dead all over my windshield. Like any little thing, like, oh, we're in a sketchy part of town. I love it all. I soak it all up because this is what I want to do. I'm creating stories, I'm creating memories, and there's with some of my closest friends. And to go talk about with these people that are genuine headliners, there's some headliners, I get it. They're just like, look, man, this is my job. You guys did great. You guys seem fun, but I'm going to head out home. And I totally respect it. I respect the honesty, and I get it. They're probably tired. They did their job. They want to get home. I totally understand it. But then you have headliners that are just like, yeah, man, if you ever want me to come back again, just let me know. And then they leave, and you're like, you're not going to hang out, like nothing, they get their money and they dip. I get it. That's what they get paid to do. But then you get comics like Ian Edwards. Ian Edwards was so cool. One, to open up for. The crowd was great. The crowd was packed. We sold out. We had to even put more seats out. Um, Ian Edwards, you could see, was a little hesitant because it's a brewery show, but it was a legit crowd. I think there was probably like 90 people in that crowd, and you could see that he's looking like, it's a brewery. But then when he saw that the crowd was there for comedy, he, like, I don't know, like just opened up like, oh, this is going to be a good show. And then so after the show, he kills it. Everybody did great. It was such a fun show. He kills it. And you could see he's kind of introverted. Well, he explains it all the time. He's a big introvert, and he goes, "I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might just go back to the hotel." Turns out we're hanging out like 20 minutes over, just at the brewery talking. The other guys are like, "Hey, we're gonna go to the bar if you want to hang out with us." And he's like, I don't know. And he's kind of looking around, and then he goes, "All right, tell me the bar." He hangs out with us for a couple hours after the show. We're just at a bar talking. We're hanging out with Ian Edwards. And it was just like one of the coolest moments of my comedy career, where it was like, man, these are the comics you learn from. These are the comics you want to hang around, because out of the kindness of his heart, he didn't even talk about like, oh yeah, book me again. Nothing. It was just like, okay, I'll go hang out with you guys. And it was like,
That's so cool.
it was one of the coolest nights of my life. One of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Do you
Um,
know who Bob Levy is?
yeah, Bob Levy. Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you about this coolest thing that ever happened. I get a call from the guy booking him. Like I put stuff out nonstop on Facebook. Somebody hits me up on the DMs and says, "Hey, I got a small budget, but I got this big guy coming to town. And he has nowhere to stay. Do you have a place like a couch he can crash on?" And I said, "Couch, I'll give him my bedroom,
Yeah.
but there's going to be no funny stuff going on. If he
Hmm.
wants a room, he can come here and hit the sack and leave me the hell alone, right? I don't care who you are, Bob Levy or Elvis Presley come back to life. I don't care." And so I got this thing, of course, ha ha ha, LOL. So not funny. I'm telling you, this guy better leave me the hell alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, like you, you message people and you don't know them from Adam. He came over. He was so respectful. He put his stuff in his room, shut the door. Then he came out to just ask a question about getting to the comedy club later. And when he got done with he invited me to come and watch his comedy and sit with him in the VIP area, which
Hmm.
was so cool. And nobody at the time knew, I don't want to name names, but nobody at the club even acknowledged me as a comic for a
Hmm.
year. But
Hmm.
when I went with him, all of a sudden it put me on the map.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so literally they would not let me sit in the comic section for a year.
Wow.
And don't think I don't remember that. I might not
Oh,
be mad about it, but
hmm,
it's like, come on now.
you
I remember.
forgive, but you never forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he's staying at my place and he goes, that was a lot of fun. And good night. And then he came back out and we literally sat up 99% of the night just talking,
Oh,
just
see,
talking.
that's
Because
awesome.
like he was stayed within the parameters, and he was respectful and he didn't have to take me and let me sit in the VIP section, but it turned things around for me at that comedy club, I'll tell you.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And it's unfortunate sometimes that that's how it has to work out for you to be recognized instead of just you as a person performing, showing your work. That's how it should be done. So, but I mean, kudos to you.
Thank
Sometimes
you.
it's as easy as letting somebody sleep over at your house, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny. My apartment, back in the early years of our comedy, um, my apartment was the place where all the comics would crash. I have a couch and an air mattress, and I'd let them crash on the in my living room. Every Wednesday, we'd have a comic here sleeping on our couch, or if he had a feature, we'd pull out the air mattress too, so that they both sleep. And I felt always just felt like it's not me trying to network and be like, oh yeah, sleep at my house. It's just you're a human being. I'm gonna be nice to you. Like you're tired, yeah, come sleep at my house. Don't worry about it. Like I'm gonna lock my door, so I'm cool.
Yeah.
just don't take any of my stuff. But yeah, we same here. We used to let people crash at my house all the time. Not so much anymore. Um, like I said, a lot of the spots here kind of died out after the pandemic. The spots we're performing at now are the newer spots, and in my opinion, they're better, but they're newer. And now we have a kind of a bigger budget, so we're able to get them hotels. So we get them
Wonderful.
hotels, so that's a lot better.
That's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Coachella. If people come out to Coachella, the closest airport is,
It's going to be the Palm Springs Airport. I do believe it's an international airport. So it's in Palm Springs. It's called the Palm Springs Airport. They just built it. I think it's like maybe 5 years old.
And
between
so then on
5 and
a
8.
in a lift, how long of a lift would that be?
Oh, not very long. If you're from Palm Springs to Palm Desert, that's that's like a 15-minute, 20-minute drive.
Wow.
So it'd be a quick drive. Yeah.
I'd like to come out and do comedy. I'd
Yeah,
like to put in I'd like to submit a tape to be considered.
well, you're gonna be speaking to Dakota Miracle if I'm not mistaken, right? You're gonna be speaking to him, so he's definitely the guy you want to speak to, and he's the booker. He's pretty much our golden boy. He's the biggest promoter here in comedy. You know, he's the one who does the news and comes out and you know, he's thrown my name out on the news, and he's a big supporter of us in the comedy scene. So he's the guy who's always the workhorse, coming up with the shows, bookings, all that stuff. So when you speak to him, that's, you know, that's it right there. We do
Yeah,
have another set of
I
promoters.
thought it was further from the airport. That's why I'm like, oh, I want to come out there. I thought it
Oh
was two
no,
and a half hours from the airport.
the casino actually from the airport is probably 10 minutes away. But the brewery, which is where that's an easier show to get on, and he does have a budget for that too. He That's about 15, 20 minutes away. But
Fabulous. I'll
very,
talk to
very
him.
quick. Yeah, yeah, he's the booker. We also have another set of bookers out here. They're called Comedy Degens. They're another promotion group. That's run by our friend Chad Bradbury and Brandon Taylor. So they perform, and they also book comics that come out here, and they throw great shows.
Oh, I forget when I'm interviewing Dakota. I'm trying to see here. Writing him a message right now before I forget. Right in the middle of your interview.
Yeah, no, no, it's okay. Trust me.
I never even did your intro at the beginning of the
It's all right.
show. So before we hang up, let me get to your interview again, your intro. And let me say, most people come on and they only stay here until the intro is over and then they leave. So
Really?
hopefully I kind of put it off for a reason because, you know, that's not fair to the person getting interviewed if that's
Hmm.
all they listen for. So you've been listening. We're not done yet talking, but I'm going to
No
put this out
worries. Yeah, this
for
is great.
you've been listening to Izzy Ortiz out of the Coachella Valley area, just outside of Palm Springs, right?
Hmm.
Okay, but you're more in the Palm Desert area.
Yeah, I live in Palm Desert.
Okay. This is his intro that he sent me. My name is Izzy Ortiz. I'm a comic out of the Coachella Valley, but some say I'm the only comic in the Coachella Valley. That's pretty cool. Just what I've heard. I've never repeated that until now. I travel all around Southern California and nearby states. And I know that's true because I met him in Vegas, performing comedy for free. So let's get him paid. What a steal for any booker who would like to cut off the words. I hate notes. But what a steal for any booker who would like to book me. Please enjoy the ignorance you're about to witness. And that's what he said as the intro. And I don't hear any kind of ignorance coming out of you. I think you're an old soul with a lot of wisdom.
I get that all the time. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And like I said, that I'm just very self-deprecating. And as you
Me
could hear,
too.
yeah, I just don't.
Wait until you hear my comedies.
Yeah, yeah, I
Is
would
it
love
in
to
your
see you. I know you asked me when we were out in Vegas, but you were performing literally the day we were heading out. So I even told Dakota, I was like, "Oh, she's performing tonight." But we had a show that Friday night back here, so we had to get home. It was at the casino, so Dakota had to absolutely be there for that show. But yeah, I would love to see you sometimes. Hopefully, it could be out here even, you know. But I travel, so maybe I'll run into you in Vegas again. That was a really fun trip. You guys have a great scene out there.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot happening. Way too much to keep track of. I
I
mean,
was
there are so many
surprised.
shows and mics. It's incredible.
I was pleasantly surprised at how many mics you guys have. Every day it seemed like there was a mic. They just kept. We were running into the same comics, which I love to see because I love a comedy scene that travels, and it's always the same group of, you know, the same group of comics that you run into, and they're like, "Oh yeah, go here tomorrow." go here tomorrow. Oh, tonight at midnight, there's going to be a secret show here. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like that's one thing I will say that I wish we had here in the Coachella Valley is like for the amount of shows we do have and the amount of comics, we don't have a lot of rooms. So we don't have shows every night like the bigger cities. You could, and I prefer quality over quantity, but sometimes you're just bored and you're like, oh man, I wish there was a mic somewhere tonight. And we
Yeah,
just don't have them. And to be out there and you guys have them like almost every night there's a show or mic, I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, why would you want to leave here?
yeah.
And yeah, a lot of those people aren't even from Vegas. I met like off the top of my head, like two that were born and raised in Vegas. Every other comic I met was like, oh, I'm from Chicago, I'm from Arizona. They're like, I just wanted to come to Vegas. Yeah. So I
There's
was like,
so many people that aren't from here. And that's pretty much the way it is when you go anywhere in Vegas. You're going to meet a lot of people that weren't born and raised here.
mm-hmm.
And the minute you meet anybody who was born and raised in Vegas, you kind of know it. You kind of feel like they have a different vibe, kind of like, yeah, I've heard it, I've seen it all, where
Mm-hmm.
we're just like, wow, look at the bright lights. They're like, seen it.
It's funny. Dakota's younger than me. I'm 28 and he is 24, 25. His birthday's this month. So when you interview him, tell him Izzy said happy birthday, even though I'm going to tell him in person. But it's actually next Monday. His birthday's on Monday.
No way.
Yeah, the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, when we were out there, I don't party anymore, Linda. I don't drink at all, hardly ever. I don't do drugs. I know I'm super boring. Sorry, everybody listening.
I don't either.
Yeah,
I
I
might have
just
one gin and tonic every
yeah,
3 weeks.
I might get a Jameson ginger at the beginning, and you'll see me with that same cup by the end of the show. I just babysit it. I take very little sips, and I just don't drink. I don't drink. And when we were heading out to Vegas, Dakota's a younger guy. He's very, he likes to have a good time. He's very social. He can have a conversation with anybody, right? And I love it about him. I love that about him. But on the way to Vegas, I said, "Hey, man, I don't want you to be mad at me, but just I want you to understand, like, I'm kind of past that already. I don't like to party. I don't want to be up till 4 in the morning. The bright lights, the strip, none of that is appealing to me. I'm at a point in my life where I like to go to try new restaurants. I like cool, wacky little stores or like retro gaming video game stores,
Yeah.
record stores. I like stuff like that. And then going back to the hotel room. And he's like, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. I go, because I don't want you to get mad at me if you're out partying by yourself going, man, why isn't Izzy with me? And sure enough, he partied by himself. Well, he met people, but I wasn't with him. I told him, I said, I'm not into that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like a business trip. I'm here to do comedy. I'm going to eat at a restaurant and then go home. And he goes, no, yeah, it's cool. But, I can't help but feel bad still. Sorry, I'm so boring. I like being boring. I can't help it. So, but
Yeah. I want to find somebody to go on the road with who's like you. I want to be like host, open, feature for a headliner and travel and like never stop.
yeah.
And I want to be with somebody reputable that isn't, into the off the wall kind of crap.
Yeah,
It's different.
I kind of just got over that at an early age. I did my partying at an early age. I never really partied, but the amount that I did do, I got it out young. So now at my age, I'm still very young, obviously, but now at my age, I'm like, it's not appealing to me. I don't really care. I just want to do comedy. I want to meet people and talk to them that are in the comedy scene. Go have a good dinner at a random restaurant. I love to find the holes in the walls at any new city I go to. Those are the best restaurants. And then go back to the hotel or go home.
Yeah.
That's all I really like to do now. Um,
That's
but
a great place to be.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so I don't know. It's just so calming for me.
Yes.
Just knowing I'm not going to get in trouble tonight.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to be around drama. I don't
yeah,
want
I
to
don't
be
want
involved.
that. I don't want that. I want to avoid it at all costs. I love to look at it when shit pops off, but from a distance. I wanted to ask you though. You mentioned Oregon. You have a twin brother in Oregon. Are you originally from Oregon?
I am born
I
and raised in Portland.
I have family in Hood River.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
beautiful place. Have you ever been there?
I have yet to go. I've heard it's like one of the most beautiful places. It's the most beautiful place in Oregon, is what I keep hearing. My family, my mom and my sister go to Oregon. I believe they're even going this summer. So I might have to take a trip with them. But I have yet to go to Hood River. They used to live in a different place in Oregon. They recently moved to Hood River within the last 10 years. So I haven't checked it out yet. But yeah,
Yeah, it's
when you said
beautiful
Oregon,
there.
yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out. I don't know. It's so far away. I'm always like making excuses not to go. And my cousin, she lives in Seattle now. She's a student in Seattle and her and her boyfriend have an apartment in Seattle. And
At
I
the
would love,
UW,
what was that?
at University of Washington.
I'm not sure which school she goes to. She went to Boston. She was in Massachusetts for 4 years at an all girls college. She graduated there. She came back to California, and within 6 months, she was like, "Okay, I'm going back to school again. Like, I don't want to be back in California." Found a school in Washington that approved. She's a genius, so every school was accepting her. And but she chose Washington, and her boyfriend, he works for like Boeing Airlines. He's like an engineer, so he got a job up there, and they live in
Great.
Washington. So I would love to go to Seattle too. I heard they have a great comedy scene, and
Where in Seattle do they live?
she lives in I think downtown actually. Down
Downtown Seattle?
um yeah, downtown Seattle, because she was telling me she doesn't even have a car, or she does have a car but she doesn't even drive it because she just takes the like city transportation everywhere. So I think
So
she's like
from
in
from
downtown.
1982 to 1987, I was a corporate trainer at Washington Mutual on Second Avenue in downtown Seattle.
Oh wow.
I raised my daughter for 18 years in the Seattle area.
Yeah. Do you have good things to say about Seattle then? Like, would you
Much better
recommend to
than
visit?
Portland.
Oh
Much
really?
better than Portland. Oh,
Is it just
Portland.
boring? Is it just boring in Portland?
No, it's way too um, Bernie Sanders for
I
me.
got you. I got you.
And I'm not even political,
Yeah.
but but
Sometimes it is too much.
because because of that bent, there's no police force, there's rioting, there's burning of things, there's continual marching in the streets. The homeless can sleep on your porch.
I've heard about all that stuff going on, and I actually have. I don't believe in politics at all.
I hate
I
politics.
hate politics, and it's so funny because I meet people that say they hate politics too, and
And
then
then
and they start to vent about, well, he's doing this, he's doing. I go, I don't even want to talk about politics.
don't even
I
want to
I
talk about it.
I don't believe in them. I don't believe what they're telling us. I don't believe.
Mm.
I just think like they're dividing us. So how does not everybody see that? Like, you guys, they want us to hate each other. Like, uh,
Every aspect of our life is bipolar right now.
yeah,
Everything is divided. Like
right,
just we were talking about opinions about things in comedy. Everybody's got to be over here or over there. There's
yeah.
nothing in the middle anymore. Any politics, comedy, what kind of coffee you like, and everybody's right, and the other person is always wrong.
And it's frustrating because I've lived my entire life in the middle. I'm on nobody's side. I'm never on anybody's side. I listen to everybody's point of view because, in my opinion, you're not going to solve anything unless you get both perspectives, right? And then you got to find some way to meet in the middle. It's easier said than done, and a lot of times it doesn't work out. But that's usually because of ego involved. That one of the people involved just don't want to try to work it out. But I'm a firm believer that's the only way we should be living, is like, hey, you have a different opinion, but I respect you as a human being. That's your right to have that opinion. Just don't force it on me, and I won't force it on you, and we can go have lunch
And
together.
that's
Like,
what it's
that's how it
all
should be,
about.
in my opinion.
I
But I don't
agree.
know anything though. So
Yeah,
when
it's like you and I think more alike than me and my twin brother.
really, and
Yeah,
you guys are twins.
yeah, but we don't have that twin thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I have the twin thing with my sister, like,
really.
yeah, I don't have that with my twin brother. It's kind of weird. So here's what I want to do before we close out, because we've
Mhm.
gone a while now. What time
No
is it?
worries.
Gone an hour. That's a good amount of chunk of time. Before we hang up on this Zoom call it a call. I have to know everywhere you're on social media. every place to find a video of you performing,
Hmm.
everything you want us to buy, click,
Sure.
look at. How can we help your career?
So pretty much Instagram is 98% of all my social media. I do have my Instagram though is going to be Izzy Ortiz Comedy. Um, and I have clips on there. That's pretty much where I post all my clips. I do have a YouTube, but I don't post on it yet. I got to start doing that. But Izzy Ortiz Comedy, Instagram is where you're going to find me at. Again, that's pretty much where all my comedy clips are. You're going to see all the photos of me on the road with my friends, and I post a lot of music on there. I'm a lover of music and movies, so I'm constantly posting music on there. I do have a podcast. It's on Spotify.
One second. What kind of music? What kind of video?
Oh,
Said two things. Music. You
and
said
movies. Yeah,
movies. What can you
yeah.
tell us? What genres you're talking?
Okay, well, when it comes to music, I love all music.
Okay.
I'm a believer that if it's a good song, it's a good song. You can't deny
Okay.
a good song, whether it's country, rap, R&B. I love a lot of like old school punk music, old school rock. I grew up like my mom on Saturdays, we'd be spring cleaning. My mom would wake us up because she had this huge like radio with two giant subwoofers, and it had like one of those 99 disc holders. And she would just play a lot of like old school classic rock, like the Scorpions. I'd wake up to like Iggy Pop or Ozzy. So I had a big music influence in my life at an early age. So I love all music. Love all music. There's no specific genre of mine. I just post whatever I'm listening to that day. It might be, Bruce Springsteen. It might be, some punk band. It just whatever I'm feeling.
And what kind of movies?
And when it's movies, 98% of them are going to be horror movies. I'm a huge fan of horror movies. I do this thing where at least once a week I'll watch some old horror film from like the 60s or 70s that I've never heard of, but they're like my favorite to watch because of how bad they are, but they're so good,
What was your favorite bad 1960s genre horror movie?
Oh, 1960s genre.
Because now we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot. I mean, they weren't even really considered horror back. Like you could go to the first Thing movie, and I think that was like 57, and you watch that one compared to the remake that John Carpenter did in the 80s of The Thing, and you're like, these are like polar opposites. But I know that's not 60s, but it's pretty close because I was just watching that one recently, black and white. I think it's called like The Thing from, it's not just called The Thing, it's called like The Thing from Space or something like that. But I was watching that recently, and that was pretty entertaining. But my all-time favorite horror movie, I know you didn't ask that, but I'll tell you, is The Shining.
I was gonna ask that next.
Oh, okay. Well, The Shining, yeah, it's my all-time favorite horror film. Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan or whatever.
No, The Shining, that's a Stanley Kubrick film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, The Shining, that's my favorite with Jack Nicholson. Yeah, I think that's probably my all-time favorite horror film. It's a classic.
What do you think about Jamie Lee Curtis's entire career, her body of work?
Oh, she's had a great career, and hopefully she does different horror films. I know they just ended the Halloween franchise finally. I got to tell you, that last movie, Halloween Ends, was probably the worst one in the series as a fan. Just they kind of went that Jason 5 route where it's like it's not really Michael Myers, just like it wasn't Jason. It was just a new person picking up the mantle. It wasn't fun to watch. I didn't like it. I was very disappointed. But Jamie Lee, her career in general is amazing. From Prom Night to all the Halloween movies to all kinds of movies. I was just watching one. It's like a sci-fi horror film where she's in space, and there's like, I think it's called The Virus. I was just watching that movie. She's in a lot of horror films that people haven't seen, so I try to watch all these movies that I've never heard of. I just think that's like part of culture. You got to watch that stuff, so you could talk about it. I don't know. I like to show it to my little sister.
Remember the movie about the girl whose head spun around in the 60s?
The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
To me, that's a horror movie. To movie.
Yeah, no, what's funny is that movie, I watch it now in today's day and age, and I look at it and I go, man, even like I can understand why this was terrifying back then. Because even now,
Yes.
I mean, priests, I read stories about horror movies all the time, and like priests were going into the theaters and blessing the room. People were passing out. The ambulance were having to take them out and, on stretchers and whatnot because nobody had ever seen anything like that at the time. They were like boycotting the film. I mean, Black Christmas isn't even as crazy as The Exorcist, in my opinion. And Black Christmas is considered like the grandfather of all slasher films. And that movie was boycott. They boycotted that film and they took it out of theaters after like 4 weeks or something like that. People just weren't ready for stuff like that during, back in those days. So I look at it now and I go, yeah, I could kind of see like how they were like shocked by this. So I don't know, but
Absolutely.
I love horror films though. They're my absolute favorite. I love movies in general. I'm probably gonna go to the movies today. I'm gonna go watch
Wow,
the
that's
Boogeyman.
cool.
Yeah,
Who's your favorite comedian in the world? And then I'll tell you mine.
my I have two. Is that too much?
No, I have seven.
Oh,
You
okay.
tell
Well,
me.
I have a lot, but the two that pop into my head, who I don't aspire to be them because that'll never happen, but they do have a big influence on me. Dave Chappelle and Joey Diaz. I think they're the greatest storytellers of all time, in my opinion. And that's what I like to do. I like to tell stories. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, my favorite comedian of all time, living or dead, female, in that category, living or dead, female comedian, was George Burns' wife, Gracie Allen.
Can you say that one more time? It's kind of staticky.
George Burns' wife, Gracie Allen.
Gracie Allen.
George Burns and Gracie Allen's were like in the 40s, 30s,
Okay.
40s, 50s, 60s. And she was like a Mrs. Magoo on the show. They had a show and then a TV sitcom, and then they had like they would do kind of some bits at the end, and it was a little bit vaudevillian, in its style, but that was those days. But she was really good at being classy, but being brilliant at the same classy, brilliant, and then with a twist. Her twist was she just happened to misunderstand what the heck you were talking about. And it took it down a whole nother, that was a twist. That she was Mrs. Magoo. She misunderstood. And it was just doing it all dressed up, really classy. That's kind of like what I'm going for. And I'll never achieve, I'm not out to be her, but I love being on stage with a twist and being classy, but my own little twist.
I could see that. I could see you doing that, actually. That makes a lot of sense. Well, that's cool.
And she's right. But I mean, like, there's other people that make me laugh a lot harder, but she mesmerizes.
Yeah, see, and to end on that, I actually speak to a lot of my friends in the comedy scene that you don't have to go up there and yeah, we're stand-up comedians and we want to make them laugh, but it's not always about laughter, in my opinion. Sometimes I almost prefer somebody who just doesn't break eye contact with me because they're so involved with what I'm saying that I'm trying to send a message and that person's getting it. Sometimes that's more fulfilling than like somebody bursting out in laughter. I love that just as much. Don't get me wrong. You like live for that. But when somebody like I did a set in San Diego last week. I was at Madhouse Comedy Club, and after my set, after the show, I went to this taco shop across the street, and this group of people that were at the show happened to be eating there too. And one guy stops me. He goes, "Hey man, I just want to say I'm never gonna forget your set." And I go, "Oh, thanks." And he goes, "Yeah, I just had never heard anything like that before." He goes, "You were really funny, but like what you were saying, I'll never forget." And I was like, "Oh, I really appreciate it." And to me, that meant more than somebody just going, "You are so funny." You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
I,
you know,
I, my computer just said it's running low, so we should sign
okay,
off
yeah, not a problem.
because I forgot to plug it in, and we've gone a long time. So we're going to be performing next, please, Izzy Ortiz.
This week, I mean, this month, I have a show here in the Coachella Valley. It's going to be at this place called the Vault in Cathedral City. That's going to be on June 24th.
Okay.
And then I think that pretty much all my shows were in the early part of this month, so I already did them for this month. So right now, the only
Okay.
one I have left is June 24th at the Vault that I'm aware of. I'm very bad with my shows, actually. I have to tell the bookers, like, just tell me like a week before so that I remember, but that's
What
all I
about
remember.
July?
July, we have multiple shows here. I don't know the dates yet. I just know we have multiple shows here in the Coachella Valley Brewery that I was mentioning to you. It's usually like the first week and last week of the month. So that's the first week of July, last week of July. In between, I'm free right now. So I'm working on shows for July. August, I'll be up north in Hollister, San Jose, the San Francisco area for like 5 to 10 days, just doing shows. I know we got a big show going on in Hollister, so I'm trying to get booked around Hollister right now. So I'm working that for August. That'll be like the first week of August. I'll be gone.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, we better sign off. And thank you so much for sharing a lot about comedy opinions and what you've been doing, what you feel. And I just thank you for your time. And this will go out everywhere that podcasts go. But I can only afford to have my guy send out a couple of them a month.
Okay.
And it costs money. It costs money. You don't want me doing it. But yeah, it'll go out eventually to everywhere podcast. For now, it'll be on my YouTube. It's there now. And I'd appreciate it if you go to my YouTube and share it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely do that. And I appreciate you having me. This was a lot of fun. It was great seeing you. I would love to see you perform sometime soon. So hopefully you can come out here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I will. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All righty. I'll see you.